All right, thank you very much for joining today. As you can see on the screen, that today we're going to discuss a point that we call feminism, an overview. Though directly, actually, it's not mentioned in our text, the text that we are reading, the Scarlet Letter. But for when it comes to literary criticism, then we can discuss, or we can just put this very novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne, the Scarlet Letter, under the microscope of different isms. And through one of the lenses that we can use to understand or to consider the novel, the Scarlet Letter, that we can use feminism. So there, you can also, discuss this novel with the help of structuralism, process structuralism, or deconstruction, or postmodernism, modernism. So there are many other avenues that you can explore to understand this very novel, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. But today I chose this topic, that is feminism, and how can we understand the Scarlet Letter, especially the heroine, Hester Prynne, that how can we consider ourselves as a feminist heroine. So if we want to understand it, so let's have a little bit of idea about the feminism. Now, before we begin our discussion, I'd like to ask you one question. So can you tell me, what does it mean, patriarchy? Or are you familiar with the idea of patriarchy? You can tell me, what is patriarchy? Anyone? Roman, what does it mean, patriarchy?
Sir, I have no ideas.
Okay, who can tell me, what is patriarchy? Patriarchy or patriarchal society, if I tell you. Patriarchal society, sometimes we say that the patriarchal society is very ruthless because it
Purushtantric society.
Okay, in Bengali we can say that Purushtantrikata, patriarchal society, Purushtantric Samaj. Okay, that's great. So now who can define it? I mean, in your own way, you can, if you want to say that, then what do you mean by this patriarchal society? From your own perspective. It must not be textual. Just what do you think about it? Roman? Okay, who said, who answered it? Fuad? Fuad, was that you? So please don't waste my time and don't waste yours too. So tell me, what do you understand by patriarchal society? In your understanding. Mim, please unmute, all of you, unmute your microphone and keep talking. Hurry up.
Yes, sir.
If you don't answer, I'll just remove you from the class one by one, and I'll not let you stay in my classroom. Yes, tell me, what do you understand by patriarchal society? Purushtantric Samaj, what is your understanding? In patriarchal society, how women are treated? How are they treated in the society? Yes? Yes, Mim, tell me, in patriarchal society, how women are treated? From your perspective, what do you say? Mim?
Sorry, sir. Pardon.
Joy, tell me, how women are treated in a patriarchal
society where women are treated, women are dominated by the male society.
Okay, good. I mean, just briefly, if you want to say that women are dominated by the main segment of the society, by the males of the society, right? Okay, and this domination, is it a good one or bad one? Or if it's a bad one, then why do we consider it as a bad one? Why do we consider it that it's a bad thing that women are dominated in the society? Why do you think that it is a bad practice? It is a malpractice? Tell me. Roman, tell me, why is it a bad practice?
Sir, actually,
as a human being, both of them have to write. Um, what's the
Sir, and
Uh,
as a society, both
society
anyone can
equality?
contribute. Just keep talking. All of you can participate. I don't have to mention your names. Just participate. Yeah, Roman, you're saying that.
Sir,
Yeah.
the patriotic society means বহিঃসঙ্গ সমাজ, sir.
Okay, I'm not going for the Bangla definition. So I just want to say, if you can define it in English, or if you can talk about it in English, that will be
Yes,
better
sir.
for
Yes,
us.
sir.
Okay.
It means other side, sir. Other sides people that in here live countries that's patriotic society.
Okay. Yeah, Roman, you're saying something. Completed.
Uh,
What were you
yes,
saying?
sir. I'm saying that as a human being, they both have right to. They both have right to.
Right
Like
to
I
what?
said,
Right to what? For example,
as a
I'm a
human
man and there are lots of
and
women out there. So you are a man and you have your sisters in your family, you have your mom, and you have some other male folks in your family. So, I mean, female members in your family. So you tell me that in which way actually you want to ensure the equality? Equality for what? Equality
equality
to
of
Mhm.
equality of power,
Power,
equality of
okay. Mhm.
equality of
So they must have
punishment
education.
access.
what
I mean, it's a sort of, we can say it's kind of rights. That means they must have
is
uh, access to. So give me one by
basic
one.
rights,
Access to, okay, basic rights. What are those? What are those? Keep talking.
food,
Food,
shelter,
okay. Shelter,
treatment,
treatment,
education,
safety, security. Okay. How about
education.
finance? How about, yes, education, of course. And of course, they must have financial security, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when actually we can ensure the access to these things, I mean, for all the main, I mean, man and women, I mean, all together, without making any kind of discrimination, right? Then we can say that this society is based on equality and equity, which is also very important. That means giving everybody the same opportunity from different circumstances, from different social context. So that will ensure a society based on equality and equity. Feminism actually, it tries to establish the equality. It doesn't mean that actually women want to be, I mean, better than man. Rather, actually, they want to establish their equality in the society, right? Their rights in the society. They want to ensure their access to the human rights or basic rights that you have already mentioned. So let's see then what is feminism, or what does it do, or some of the traits of the feminism. And at the same time, we'll also be discussing today a little bit of, not in detail, because on some other occasions we'll discuss about feminism in detail, but today just an overview so that you can have a glimpse of the feminism, and also you can compare the different characters that you can find in the novel The Scarlet Letter. So when you want to analyze them through the lens of feminism, so you can find out some of the traits that we can see in the Hester Prynne or some of the female characters in the novel, and you can put them side by side, and you can justify that how actually Hester Prynne herself is a feminist heroine. How can we say that? All right. Hello, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great, great. So if you just take a look at this very first slide, it says that feminism is a social, political, and cultural movement that aims to achieve gender equality and end sexism in all its forms. So it's a social, political, and cultural movement. So you can see there are three things which are, you can say, which are in action. You can say amalgamation of these three things together uh, that can ensure I mean, where actually we can establish the feminism. And it's a movement not from a single perspective or single aspect, but it is a movement from different aspects, and especially social, political, and cultural. Social means based on the society. Political means they wanted to establish their political rights, like right to vote. Okay, and just a second. Okay, so social, political, and cultural movement. Cultural movement, in that sense, as you can see, if you just take a look at the literature, uh, earlier, women actually, they used to write, but uh, but in some cases, actually, they are not allowed to publish their own works. Even they had to write using pseudonym. So, and also they didn't have the, I mean, the, you can say, the greater access to the different kinds of cultural activities. So social means their existence in the society as human being, and also in the politics, their existence as a political being, and in the cultural movement, their existence as someone actually who can participate or who can contribute to the culture. So that aims to achieve, so this social, political, and cultural movement that aims to achieve gender equality and end sexism in all its forms. So gender equality, as we have already talked about, in the patriarchal society, we can see that how women's position and their contribution, it has been, you can say, dehumanized, or you can say it is belittled from different perspectives. And sexism means the discrimination based on sex, so in all its forms. So they wanted to eradicate, they wanted to stamp out all these things from the society altogether. So feminism recognizes that women have historically been oppressed and marginalized in many societies around the world. And they seek, the women actually, they seek to address this inequality through activism, education, and different sorts of social reformation. So activism, as you can see, that means women, they talk about their own rights. So they we can say that they're the part of different kinds of I mean, they're activists. So they protest, they talk about it, they present their cases in front of the audience. So this activism was very important. So they try to address these sort of things to the different kinds of audiences, like in the political gathering, that is sort of audience. In the social congregation, that is some sort of audience. So they try to address their problem, their or the inequality, or you can say the discrimination or disparities that they are facing in the society. And also their access to the education, it was very limited earlier. So they wanted also to have the equal access, just like the male segment of the society, and social reformation throughout all these things, of course. So feminism is not just about women's rights, but also about challenging and changing gender rules and stereotypes that limit both man and women. Now, uh, you can see that in our society, we have already a stereotype that women, they're, we can see the changes these days, but from a greater perspective, if you just take the whole context together, then you can see in the rural areas, especially, and where actually the education hasn't flourished in that way. So you can find in those areas that how women's rights are neglected and they are stereotyped in such a way, and also the gender roles, it has been fixed. For example, in the patriarchal society, we can see that man will work outside, so they will earn the bread, and they are the breadwinners. They're the, I mean, they will support the livelihood of all the family members. And women actually, they will only stay in the kitchen. They will just cook and they will take care of their kids only, nothing else. So you can see that this way, the job or the roles, it has been determined or bifurcated in such a way that, and for centuries, actually, we didn't see any changes there. But in recent days, in the contemporary society, we can see changes, but still, there are a lot more to do. The changes that actually we really want to enjoy, it hasn't been implemented yet. So we need to work on it. And stereotyping means that I've already mentioned that you give someone a specific typification, and you put them in some sort of types that, okay, this is for man, this is for female, this is for women. So in this way, when you type, then we call it a stereotyping. And that limits both man and women. That means man's jobs or man's traits are fixed and women's traits are fixed. So in this way, we stereotype man and women in the society. It is a movement that values diversity and intersectionality, recognizing that gender intersects with other forms of oppression, such as race, class, sexuality, and ability. So it recognizing that gender intersects. That means everywhere you can find that based on race, that means women is a race, man is a race, or black people, black women. So they are you can say that black women, they're also a race, and then also class, that means upper class women, lower class women, white women, black women. Sexuality means it's based on your biological definition of being man and woman. And ability means man can do this, women can do that. So in this way, actually, all the time, we are creating some sort of binary oppositions. And there we can find the intersectionality. That means one section will influence the other section. So in this way, so women actually, they try to address all these disparities in the society. Okay, do you get me, dear students? Do you follow me? Hello? Hello, dear students, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I can.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Now here, again, you can see the feminism encourages critical thinking and challenges societal norms and power structures that maintain gender inequality. It recognizes the importance of women's voices and experiences and seeks to empower women to take control of their own lives and make their own choices. Now here, if I put it in this way, that can you tell me that whether Hester Prynne in the novel The Scarlet Letter, I mean, did she have that right to control her own life and to make her own choices? What do you think? The protagonist of the novel, Hester Prynne. So can we say that she controlled her own life and she made her own choices? Joy, what do you think? Did she do that?
No, sir.
Okay, so but she was determined, right? But she tried.
Yes, sir.
But she, in some cases, you want to say that she failed. Was it like this?
Hmm.
What was the reason
Well,
behind it? What do you think? What was the reason behind it that she couldn't have her own choices I mean, in that society, in that American
time
society?
period, society.
I mean, why did
uh,
she fail to make her own choices? How to explain it?
if the society actually restricted something else, and
Yes, yes.
the women's cannot that kind of husband actually as the owner or as the master of a women. So as per this scenario, this thing, or women cannot live alone without his husband, but ultimately his husband was somewhere is
Her
mad. So
husband, yes.
yes, her husband is somewhere mad, and he was actually busy with his work. So that's the reason he tried to what can I say, he tried to create a new bond with someone else, but she didn't do it a proper way, and she actually involved in a illegal activities, for example
Okay,
adultery.
okay. In that sense, you see, her husband was, I mean, away from the house, and she thought that her husband is dead, right? And in the Puritan society at that time, women were not allowed to remarry. And as a result, she had to, I mean, she engaged in some sort of, I mean, you can say adultery, rather, I should say, because still she was within the bond of marriage. But you can see, but that society actually didn't ensure her physical need. And she was in the Puritan society, she wasn't allowed to live alone, or she wasn't allowed to, I mean, live a life in her own way. And that's why actually she had to take that path surreptitiously, or you can say secretly, right? So she made her own choice, sort of, but she couldn't express her own thoughts and own ideas completely because of the patriarchal society, or you can say the Puritan society. There is a pressure from the religious people also, right? So religion was also an obstacle, I mean, on our way to control our own life. Roman,
Yes, sir.
okay, do you want to add anything?
No, sir. At this moment, I have no idea.
But do you follow me what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Now, I don't want to bore you with all these things. Now, let me jump quickly and put some of the things. All right, now, if we take a look at the history of the feminist movement, then you can see the feminist movement spans several centuries and involves a variety of social, political, and cultural changes. And all these changes actually aim at achieving gender equality that we have been talking about for the last few minutes, and challenging gender-based discrimination, which is we call stereotyping as one of them. Challenging gender-based discrimination. For example, as a man, you can do this. As a women, you can do this. You cannot do that because it's only for the man. So you see the gender-based discrimination we can see, and oppression also. You can find it in the society and also in the family. Now, if you just take a very brief overview of some of the key moments and movements in feminist history, you can see that the first wave of feminism, it was there, it began in the 19th century and continued into the early 20th century. So 19th century means 18th, that means 1800s. So that means it began in the 19th century and continued into the early 20th century. That means 1930s, something like that. So with the main focus on women's suffrage, that I already mentioned, that right to vote, that we call women's suffrage. Suffrage means, that means you can vote. Earlier, actually, only man can vote. So you see, in the decision-making process, within the family and also in the society at large, they didn't have any access, or they didn't have any participation there. So in the 1930s, actually, in the early 20th century, so women worked for it. And we can see that there are drastic changes all over the world, and women also, they could participate in different kinds of political movements. This wave also addressed issues related to property rights, education, and employment opportunities for women. Property rights, you see, earlier, actually, women, they were not entitled to own any property. So they couldn't buy any property, or even they were not allowed to inherit any property from their fathers or from their husbands or sons. And of course, they didn't have access to education and employment. Actually, that is unquestionable. When there is no education, you don't have any property rights and employment. I mean, it's something which is very fanciful. So even you can't dream about it. Then the second wave of feminism, it has started, feminism emerged in the 1960s, you see, 1960s, and continued into the 1980s with a focus on women's liberation. So first of all, it was in the first wave of feminism, there we can see that women actually, they tried to establish their women's suffrage, I mean, right to vote, and also their access to education and participation in the politics. But in the 1960s and 1980s, there were more advancement in the 1980s. So with the focus of women's liberation and the broader issues of gender inequality. So they brought to, they addressed different other sorts of gender inequality that were existing at that time in the society. This wave addressed issues such as reproductive rights, workplace discrimination, and domestic violence. So you can see earlier in the first wave feminism, where we can see that in the 1800s, in the 19th century, and also in the early 20th centuries, we found that women fought for their right to employment. I mean, they didn't have any access to the employment. But here in the 1980s, we can see that women actually, for the last 100 years, they worked for their rights to get jobs, or to participate in the employment, or to have, you can say, financial, independence. And for that, so you can see they established the rights to the, to get jobs. Now, when you are getting jobs in different sectors, now you're facing different kinds of workplace discrimination. For example, your male counterpart, though both of you are in the same positions, but you can find that the women were paid less and men were paid more. So this is workplace discrimination, and also sexual abuse and different kinds of mental abuse. All these things were there. So these are called workplace discrimination. And reproductive rights means women actually earlier, they couldn't take their own decisions about their about the reproduction, about giving birth to child. So and also abortion was one of the issues at that time. It's still in USA and in different other countries. Even in present days, you can see that they don't have they are fighting for their right to abortion. In different states in USA, In some states, actually, they allow abortion, and in some states, actually, even today, they don't allow abortion. So, productive rights is not only about abortion; it's also about, I mean, having a control over your own body. That when actually you want to have babies, and when you don't want to have babies. So sometimes actually it is, you can say, imposed from the family, especially the male counterpart, your male partner. So they used to decide that when to have babies or not. So and domestic violence, of course, is there. That means like beating women or maltreating them. So these are the things we're addressing the second wave of feminism. In the third wave feminism, you can see the third wave feminism emerged in the 1990s and continues to the present day with a focus on intersectionality, that we have already mentioned, that intersectionality regarding class, race, okay, and the recognition that gender inequality is intertwined with other forms of oppression, such as racism and classism. So racism, classism are also very important things, and forms of oppressions are also there. Now, uh, there is another kind of feminism that we have today that we call global feminism. The feminist movements have also taken on a global dimension with activists and organizations around the world working to achieve gender equality and challenge gender-based discrimination and violence. Now, the global dimension means when this very idea of feminism started in the European countries, especially in the Western world, and also precisely in USA, the idea was that actually they were fighting for their own women, that in USA or in other European countries. So it didn't get the shape of global, some sort of, I mean, you cannot say that it has started its movement as a global movement. So later on, this very idea of feminism, it was adopted by the women, different kinds of women activists around the world. And then it became something global. It's not only American feminism, it's not only European feminism, rather these days we can say it's global feminism. So all the feminists around the world, they are connected through different kinds of channels, through different kinds of interest, you can say interest sections, or different kinds of organizations, NGOs, different kinds of institutions. So now feminism actually institutional now, these days it is established. So it has become a movement which is global. It's not something which is regional. There are, of course, some regional, you can say, phase of feminism. For example, our feminism in our part of the world, especially in Bangladesh, you can see that we have a different sorts of problems because our socioeconomic and also our socio-cultural dimensions or facets, or you can see the perspectives are different. So that's why there are some sort of difference you can find the global feminism and Bangladeshi feminism, but still Bangladeshi feminism or our feminism, actually, it is not isolated from the international feminism or global feminism. Now, then we have contemporary feminism. That means these days, the feminism that we have, or we can see the new facet or the new look, new appearance of the feminism. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of feminist activism and awareness with movements such as Me Too and Time's Up, highlighting the ongoing issues of sexual harassment and assault in various industries. So you see the Me Too, it's a movement. It has started on Twitter and also it's on Facebook. Everywhere it's on the hashtag Me Too. So it has become a global feminist movement. So in the contemporary days, hashtag Me Too, there you can see women, they started depicting their own histories, their own stories, especially the stories of harassment, sexual harassment, or oppressions. For example, someone faced oppression in a workplace, so she will talk about that, and also mentioning the names of the persons who were the oppressors, or in the university, or in your home, or in different other social congregation, and anywhere where actually women face different kinds of discrimination, different kinds of sexual harassment or assault. So they started coming up with their stories, they started coming up with the facts, and they started delineating those things on the online platforms. So the contemporary feminism, you can see it has become something which is very communicable with the help of internet, different kinds of online platforms. So it has become very much, you can say, it is just like a spark. it started in one place, then in a moment, you can see that throughout the whole world, you can see that sort of movement. Actually, it will get some sort of momentum, which was unimaginable in the previous eras or previous centuries. Now, let us talk about some of the key features or traits of feminism. So as you can see, the very first one, that is intersectionality. Excuse me. Now, feminism recognizes that gender intersects with other forms of oppression, such as race. So it is not only based on gender, the oppression that we can see that beyond gender, there are also other facets or other perspective of you can see the oppression. For example, based on race, based on class, based on sexuality, based on ability. That means as a man, you can man is stronger than the women, so man can do these things, women cannot do these things. These are those things. So of course there are some sort of differences. Men and women biologically we are different, but when you make discrimination in such way that which can cause some sort of tormentation, oppression, or which can cause some kind of suppression, then there lies the problem. That's why actually we are raising our objections and complaints against those things, those ideas. So it recognizes that gender intersects. So it's gender or the issue of gender, that male and female, it is not only the discrimination based on not only the gender, also race also plays an important role there. For example, women and men, they are different. So based on man and women, we are facing, especially the women, they are facing different sorts of discrimination in the society. But among them, those who are black, so as a race, you are a woman first, and then again, if you're a black woman, then the oppression level will be multiplied. So you see, race is also there playing a vital role for the oppression against women. So that's why we call it intersectional. It's not only gender, race also contributes to the oppression. Class also contributes to the oppression. That means upper class, lower class, poor and rich, middle class, super rich, millionaire, billionaire, whatever you say, and from different perspectives in the society, or the learned group, or you can say the intellectuals, or the ignorant, illiterate. So based on different, different criteria, when you classify the society, then and if it causes different kinds of discriminations in the society, then you call it, then you can call that is the oppression based on class. So intersectionality is there. I hope you understand it. Then activism. Feminism is a movement that advocates for social change through activism. Activism means the activists. For example, you can see different groups of people, they will come together and they will hold placards in their hand and different kinds of banners and festoons, writing different sorts of,
So this is kind of
sentences or
protest.
ideas. It's some kind of protest. So activism means when you participate actively. It's not only about just writing on a newspaper, 1 or 2 articles, and then you keep mum, keep quiet. It's not like that.
They're actually physically appearance in the
Yes,
road or
absolutely.
something
Thank you
else.
for that word. I think their physical presence, we can see, we can feel that they are there, right? Okay, thank you, John.
Exactly,
So
sir.
including protests and lobbying and education. So they always talk about education, that women must have good education, they must have participation in education so that they can establish their own rights through education, because education will empower ultimately. And lobbying means, that means through activism, you will create some pressure on the government, on the, on the system specifically,
Okay.
and you will ask the system to change it. So activists actually, they lobby, they advocate in support of the women, and they talk against the oppressions. So the lobbyist group, they are the pressure group, they create pressure on the government, on the system. And then as a result, sometimes you can see the government, they will, you can see they will give up, and then they will listen to these activists or their, and the protesters, and ultimately the protesters will compel them to change the laws in support of the women equality and equity. So that is about activism. So you can see in feminism, we can see intersectionality, we can see activism, and also empowerment. Of course, it's there, that they are doing it for empowerment, to establish their power in the society, to establish their equality as human beings in the society. So feminism seeks to empower women and other marginalized genders to take control of their lives and make their own choices, both personally and politically. Seeks to empower women and other marginalized genders. Other marginalized gender means like like you say third gender that we can say, or hermaphrodite, or eunuch, or you can say, transsexual. Those that we have in our society. In Bangla, we call them hijra,
Okay.
like that. So they also talk about their rights. Also, it's not only about the
Yes,
women, but also
exactly.
the marginalized genders, those who are also part of the society. And diversity is there. Feminism values diversity and seeks to create a more inclusive movement that represents and addresses the needs and experiences of people of all genders and backgrounds. So it's about all genders. I mean, it's very inclusive, you can say. So men are also part of it. Women are also part of it. That means when feminism will be established in the society, it doesn't mean that man is going to lose their power. Man is going to be oppressed by the women. So it's not like that. Rather, actually, feminism establishes the equality and equality among the between male and female. Okay, so diversity is there, and of course, uh, it sparks critical thinking. Feminism encourages critical thinking and challenges societal norms and power structures that maintain gender inequality. So centuries after centuries, we are maintaining the same sort of patriarchal, society or patriarchal structure of society in our country or in different parts of the world. So feminists actually, they are challenging this sort of unequal, system, and they are challenging them, and also they are encouraging other people, especially the female segment of the society and also the male part of the society. So both of us, we can think critically, and then when you, if you're not able to think critically, then you'll not be able to judge a problem critically, because when you think critically, that means you're thinking it from different angles, different perspectives, and thinking critically only it can ensure that you can take a text or you can take a situation or context, and then you can when you think critically, then you can judge it from different perspectives, from different angles, using different kinds of ideas, norms, and other stuff, and then you'll be able to break the structures. The structures that is oppressive. It's not the good structures I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bad structures which has perpetuated the oppression against women in the society for centuries. Then gender equality, of course, gender equality, that is equality between the male and female. So feminism advocates of gender equality and seeks to eliminate gender-based discrimination and oppression. Inclusivity, that women are not included in every segment of the society, or they're not allowed to participate in different kinds of cultural activities or political activities or economic activities, financial activities. But through feminism, the activists, they're trying to establish the participation of women in every segments of the society, in everything that we have in a state, in a country, in a society, in a family. And therefore, actually, we are trying to establish, or we are trying to ensure the inclusion of women in everything. For example, in decision making, sometimes actually we ignore our women folks of the family. The women members, sometimes they are not allowed to participate in the decision making. Men think that actually they can think better than the women. So this is in one problem. You can also see in your own family. So inclusivity is one thing that one of the main traits or features of the feminism, and collaboration. But one thing that I would like to mention here regarding inclusivity, but when you include women, it doesn't mean that you have to exclude man, right? Man is already there, but women, they're absent. Their presence is nil or zero. So man is always there, and he is still there, but women were not there. So we are now putting women into the periphery, or you can say into the circle. So they can also participate equally in decision making. And when you want to ensure inclusivity or equality, of course, you need collaboration. Now, feminism values collaboration and coalition building with other social justice movements to achieve shared goals. So there are different kinds of movements that we can see in the society is going on all the time. And feminist activists, they try to collaborate with those, or they try to help them. They also want to be a part of other social justice movements. So anywhere you can see injustice in the society, so they will collaborate, to eradicate those injustice from the society. So in a sense, feminism actually, it establishes, or at least it intends to establish justice in the society. Now, these are briefly we can say about the characteristics or traits of feminism. Now, I would like to mention a little bit about the types of feminism. So there are different types of feminism. Among these, you can see the liberal feminism, radical feminism, Marxist feminism. So these are the important feminist perspective that we can take into a consideration. So what is liberal feminism? So liberal feminism, from the very title, you can see some sort of liberty, or we can say liberalize something. So let's see what is it. So this type of feminism focuses on achieving gender equality through legal and political reform. So there will be legal formation. Legal reformation is very important, because in the laws, you can see that there are lots of discrimination has been established against women. So now you can see the first, after the establishment of the Bangladesh, after 1971, all the governments together, one after another, you can see they have brought different kinds of amendments, different kinds of changes in the legal system. And this legal system, it has made congenial and conducive to the women's rights, to establish the women's rights, women's empowerment. So that's why we can see the legal system, it has been revamped or reformed. Similarly, political reformation, we can also see that if you just take a look at our parliament, there you can see the participation of the women parliament members is very significant, and they are playing very vital role in the decision making when it comes to any kind of decisions, nationwide, or you can see any kind of political decisions, any kind of legal decisions. So they're also participating equally, just like their male counterparts in the parliament. Now, and also they're participating in the government. So you can see that there are different ministers, and there are different important key positions are these days. Actually, those are those are taken by not by force, but taken by the women by using, because they are intellectually capable of performing those jobs. That's why they are given those jobs. And through challenging gender-based discrimination in areas such as education and employment. So liberal feminism, wherever they find any kind of gender-based discrimination, so they will be there, especially in education and employment. So liberal feminism seeks to create a society where women have equal opportunities and are not limited by their gender. So it's not about gender. So you cannot do this because you're a man. You cannot do this because you're a woman. So it's not like this. So they are trying to eradicate these sort of stereotyping from the society. Now, radical feminism, from the title radical, you can see that it sounds a little bit orthodox, a little bit difficult, strict. So let's see what it says. The radical feminism is a more extreme form of feminism that seeks to fundamentally change the social and cultural norms that perpetuate gender-based oppression. So you see, it's a more extreme form of feminism. It's not a normal feminism. So actually, they challenge the patriarchy directly, face to face, and sometimes actually they don't want to compromise. They're very vindictive kind of. You can say feminist, you can say sometimes, but not in that sense that vindictive means they're just going to kill all the male counterparts of all the males from the society. It's not like that, but they like to challenge face to face. So it's a little bit of strict kind of feminism that you can say. And some, you can see many feminists, actually, they don't support radical feminism. Rather, actually, they go by the rules of liberal feminism. So that seeks to fundamentally change the social and cultural norms that perpetuate gender-based oppression. So they want to change any kind of discrimination based on gender then and there. No compromise. Just you have to change it, that's it. So there is no compromise. Radical feminists argue that patriarchy is deeply entrenched in society, and which is true, that in a society where the patriarchy is there, it's deeply ingrained in the society, and that traditional gender roles and expectations must be abolished in order to achieve true gender equality. And with this part, actually, I personally agree with this one, that traditional gender roles, that means men will only work outside and women will only cook inside the house, and they will stay inside the house, and they will only be, their place is only in the kitchen. They will not do anything. They don't have any right to participate in anything, stuff like that. So, and also the expectations. So we have different kinds of expectations. We have expectations from the, you can see the male children and female children. So we have different kinds of expectations of, from the male and the female. We have different kinds of expectations. So we, if those expectations create any kind of discrimination, so in that case, actually, we have to abolish those sort of expectations if it do any wrong to the woman. Then Marxist feminism is based on Marxist ideas. As you know, it was Karl Marx, actually, he talked about the Marxism, but feminists, one feminist group, actually, they took this Marxism, this idea of Marxism, and they put it into their feminism. So you see, Marxist feminism sees gender oppression as being intimately tied to economic and class oppression and seeks to address these issues together. As you know that in the Marxism, we see that it talks about the class struggles based on money, based on economy. So I can say when you can have the equal distribution of the finance, of the money, of the wealth in the society, then you can establish the equality or equity in the society. So that's why the Marxist feminists, they say that actually we need to work in this line. So it's mostly based on the economy and class oppression or class struggle. That means rich and poor, this binary. So now they are saying that male and female. So this is the binary actually they just want to eradicate from the society. And using Marxist ideas, Marxist philosophy. So Marxist feminists argue that capitalism perpetuates gender inequality by exploiting women's unpaid labor in the home, and that a socialist system is necessary to achieve true gender equality. So they are saying that women are working at home and they are not paid. For example, they're cooking and taking care of our kids and children, but you see, I'm working outside, I'm paid for that, right? I'm being paid for my job. But women are working at home, they're not paid. So they're saying that there's these sort of, these sort of capitalist ideas actually that perpetuated, or you can say that that actually it has solidified the gender inequality, and they see it as a sort of exploitation against women. Now, intersectional feminism recognizes that gender is just one aspect of a person's identity. So gender is the one aspect. But there are some other aspects that we have already mentioned, that is race, class, sexuality, and ability. So they say that other factors such as race, class, sexuality, and ability also contribute to experiences of oppression and discrimination. So they're also contributing to the oppression and discrimination. So they say that not only about the gender-based discrimination, we also have to address discrimination made based on race, discrimination made based on race, class, sexuality, and ability. So all these things, they're putting it together and they're bringing all these things under consideration. So along with the gender discrimination, they're also going to talk about this. So intersectionality is intersectional feminism. You can see it's very much some sort of inclusive type of, feminist, feminist movement or feminist type, you can say. So intersectional feminists seek to address these intersections and to create a more inclusive and just feminist movement that represents the need and experiences of people of all genders and backgrounds. So people from all genders and all backgrounds. That means whether you're Black, whether you're Asian, whether you're African, whether you are European, whether you're white, it doesn't matter, that all of you will be the part of this intersectional feminism. So all of them will work together. That's why I have already mentioned that it's very inclusive sort of feminism. And the last one that we can see, ecofeminism. It's a very recent trend, and recently we can see that ecofeminism, eco-criticism, eco-criticism, and also linguistic based on this eco-criticism, these are also very much in vogue in present days. So in the contemporary world, you can see that ecofeminism is a type of feminism that recognizes the interconnectedness between the exploitation of nature and the exploitation of women, and seeks to address these issues together. So you see, it's exploitation. That means the way we exploit the nature, if you take the nature as the symbol of motherhood, the way actually we are exploiting the nature, we can also see that we are also exploiting the women. So when you, for example, deforestation means actually you are destroying the nature. Similarly, you are oppressing the women. So you're also destroying the women segment of the society. So you're causing harm to them. So when you bring this ecological stuff in understanding the feminism, or when you bring feminism, and then you also bring this ecology or environment, and you put them side by side, and then you compare and contrast these two things together, and you put them together to understand the oppression that is done against the nature and against women, then actually we can call it that is ecofeminism, because the way actually we are exploiting the nature, that is also a kind of exploitation, that is also kind of oppression, and we are also exploiting, or we are also showing a domination over the women. So that is also a kind of exploitation. So that's why it says that uh, you can say that is ecofeminism, if you really want to understand it very briefly. There are a lot more things are there, but just if I want to generalize it, that what is ecofeminism, that is understanding. The ecofeminists argue that the domination and exploitation of nature is closely linked to the domination and exploitation of women. Exploitation of nature is linked with the exploitation of women, and that both must be addressed in order to achieve a more just and sustainable society. Because these days we're talking about sustainable development, right, all over the world. So for the sustainable development, we must address the development of the nature, or the preservation of the nature, and at the same time also the preservation of the rights of the women. So when we can do the both together, and we can address the both together, then we can establish a more sustainable society, and more we can also establish justice in the society. Okay, all right. So that's it about feminism, and why actually I'm saying that you can consider that the Scarlet Letter from the feminist perspective, and also you can consider different characters from the feminist perspective. That's why I try to give you a very brief idea about feminism. I believe that it's going to help you when you want to address any issues related to feminism, and at the same time when you want to address any perspective, any themes, or any motive from the novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne, The Scarlet Letter. So now I'd like to open the platform for your question or comments. So if you have anything to say, you can talk to me. Okay. Do you have any idea, anything to say, anything to add, any comment, dear students?
স্যার দ্য
Yes.
স্কারলেট লেটারের সাথে বাংলা সাহিত্যের যে লাল সালু তার একটা কম্পেয়ার প্রায় করা হয়, এবং এ ব্যাপারে কিছু রিসার্চও রয়েছে। তাহলে এক্ষেত্রে কি স্যার লাল সালুতে আমরা যে ফেমিনিস্ট পার্সপেক্টিভ দেখি, ওটা কি স্যার হথর্ন থেকে কোনোভাবে ইন্সপায়ার্ড?
I cannot say that exactly, because I don't know that whether Syed Waliullah actually was familiar with the novel The Scarlet Letter, but it is not impossible that, because he was a very well-versed person, and he read lots of stuff from different sorts of literature from different parts of the world. So maybe actually he got some exposure to the Scarlet Letter, but I'm not sure that whether he was influenced by it. So it's a matter of research, or maybe there are research out there, but I'm not sure about it. I can't tell you that whether he was influenced by the Scarlet Letter and then he wrote this Lal Shalu. But you can see that both the novels actually, they share some sort of same kind of theme, the religion, the puritanism of the society, and how religion actually, it has been exploited to oppress man. It's not the fault of the religion, it's the fault of the people. It's their problem, it's their error, because they took religion out of context, and that's why, and also just to serve their own purpose, especially the financial purpose. So the greed of these religious figures that we see in the society, actually, it has caused the problem, and it has tarnished the image of the religion, and also it has, and many people actually, they have got, you can say, reluctant or indifferent to the different kinds of religious stuff these days. So it's not of the, not the problem with the religion, but it's a problem with the people who are practicing the religion, because they are not representing the religion in the true sense of the term. Rather, actually, they are distorting it just to earn benefit out of it. That's it.
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Okay. If you don't have any more comments or anything to say, then I'd like to conclude today's lecture here. So thank you, dear students, for your participation, and hope to see you next time, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Welcome, Sir.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Thank you. Take care, and see you next time, inshallah.